Hello YouTube, back at you guys with a second video today. Today I want to talk a little bit about integrating the feminine, and I made a video about this yesterday. But what I'd like to focus on today is this idea that that every man struggles with facing the dragon, which is the mother complex I alluded to. You can think of it as the nurturing and calm environment of the mother's womb, the mother's care, the mother's attention that a boy receives before he fully has to face his own individuality and independence as a man, and take on his own right as a knight. And in this stage, this transition from boyhood to masculine figure is a rather difficult one for many men in our modern society. And the reason why it's more difficult than ever is that currently, in the status quo, we have more tools than ever to keep men subjugated in a cycle of boyhood. And what I mean by that is that you could live a very, very long and content life in the Western world, in the Western womb, and never actually come into being. With the amount of social programming, the amount of institutions, the amount of comfort that we're embedded in our daily living, it becomes very hard to face the dragon in our society. And I think a lot of people are unconsciously, a lot of men are unconsciously not facing the dragon, because that entails, it entails taking a stance. And if you look at the modern man, typically you'll see characteristics like weak, characteristics like doesn't have a spine, on a lot of modern men. And you can see the sort of inversion of morals there, where, typically to be a man meant to be very strong, leader, charismatic, and now it's more like, now the scale is flipped on the pendulum, right? And so there's a certain sense of emasculation in modern society. And while this happened, while the pendulum swung in a sense, in order to allow for more expression of the feminine, it's unfortunate that there has not been the maintenance of something called polarity, which is that masculine-feminine dynamic, where men are able to be in tune with the feminine, but still be rooted in a strong sense of their own masculinity. And I think this relates back to basically what I'm talking about in this video about facing the dragon, because if you really want to be in a position where you can be a leader, where you can be in tune with the feminine, that entails that you've already faced the dragon. That entails that you've already overcome the societal hurdles that would push you back into boyhood, that would push you back into that voice in your head saying, hey, go back to sleep, don't grind, don't have spirit and will of your own, remain in a state of comfort. And this is a challenge that every man must face at some point in their life, particularly the Western man, who in his culture and narrative has come up with enormous amounts of excuses for himself as to why he will not face the dragon, and an enormous amount of scapegoats for not facing the dragon. And amongst them is his insistence on using material wealth as a sort of cultural symbol of masculinity. So you see men who drive these very fancy cars, and that becomes a symbol of their masculinity. You see men who, dress a certain way, who speak a certain way, who walk a certain way. And ironically, these are all ways of hiding their own insecurities and their own undeveloped ego states that are not in tune with, or rather that they're unconsciously hiding from this dragon, that they're unconsciously using these elements of themselves to not fully express and engage with their masculine core. And that is unfortunate reality that I think a lot of men in Western society deal with. I mean, you can see it from the misogynistic nature of hip-hop culture. You can see it from some of the toxic nature that you might experience in high schools here. The idea of the body count, the idea of a lot of things where masculinity becomes predicated on possession. And the reason why you must possess to add to your value as a man in this society is because of this insecurity. And in all honesty, the only way to face the dragon and to find wholeness as a man, to come into your own being, is to confront that image, to confront the image of the mother complex and the dragon from within. And so it's a journey that starts first here in the heart before it can start in the metaphysical reality. And because of that, our Western society has set up a way of facing the dragon that is always about overcoming. It is the symbol of the cowboy. And this is very ironic that in Western society, to face the dragon and the mother complex, one must overcome. He must become the victor and the hero in order to save the maiden. When in this very idea of the cowboy, is it not in the name of itself to mean like some sort of undifferentiated masculinity, boy, and it's because it's externally oriented. It means that you don't face the dragon from within. It means that you must overcome something in the world, and I would argue that you cannot overcome that which is in the world that you have not come to grips with within yourself first. And the inner and outer world are reflectory in that nature. So if you look at the Eastern way of dealing with this problem, it's much more about handling tension. It's much more about accepting that which is in yourself, right? Meditating on it, ruminating on it, understanding yourself. And that is the only way to ease this tension and a way to break through that. Now, I'm not saying that this is inherently better, right? To meditate and to handle that difficulty and uncomfort. I do think that there's an element of integration necessary, and I do think that there's an element of overcoming necessary. But understanding that there are these two different ways of dealing with this problem of coming into manhood, and that you must take a conscious stance with regard to this issue, and also make a decision as to how you're going to approach this. Whether you do want to be more cavalier about it, or if you want to take the Eastern way, which is more about the meditative aspect, finding tranquility within the self, and self-acceptance. I would say that I'm more on the latter in my personal experience, making life decisions and objectives that have tried to overcome the dragon, whether they be physical objective decisions or even trying to just force like a subjective feeling into myself, has never really done it for me. I much more prefer the holding of tension and the understanding of that, of where that anxiety comes from, as a source of healing and moving forward. And one last note on this for those who are like, well, why would I want to integrate this? Why would I want to face the dragon? Why would I want to overcome the mother complex? And that's because really the inner feminine is a force of life in the man. And and reluctance to face the mother complex not only means lack of integration with the outer feminine of this world, which means, well, if you're a man, it's going to be difficult to have a healthy relationship, but it also means a lack of integration with the self as a consequence. And then the end result of that is the annihilation of the self, which is suicide. And really, it is exemplified by the fact that any man who has refused to face the dragon and who has lost to the dragon at the end of their life ends in a suicide or a form of suicide. And so I think that understanding that can be very, in some ways, depressing to know that you were thrown into this life in an existential fashion, and that you must overcome a challenge that you never asked for in the beginning. But I think once you accept that that is the way that life is for a man, you can begin to have a positive relationship to your own masculinity, and start to really think about how and why it is that you're here, or rather why it is that you're here and how it is that you're going to deal with the circumstances of living, and deal with what it means to be a man in this world. I'll leave you guys with that. I'm hoping to create some more videos on this sort of content. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Talk to you guys next time.